everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts on this Tuesday. We are going to continue to talk about flooding after what we experienced over the weekend, but even this morning we saw some heavy rain roll through.
Yeah, and at this point, any kind of rain that we get will immediately make things worse because there's just nowhere for it to go. The soil is saturated, a lot of the drainage systems, the infrastructure we have just, it's struggling to catch up to what's going on. And then our area rivers, creeks, streams, retention ponds, they're at full as well. Fortunately, this morning's storms were a little bit faster.
Yes,
Had they been slower like what we saw on Sunday or whatever, it would have been a much, much bigger situation. But as it was pretty bad.
Yes.
And we'll circle back to some of the wind gusts on that as well. But we just got done checking in with the folks in Germantown. There's an update there.
Right, exactly. They are still performing some water rescues. They are voluntary evacuations at this point, but by boat in some neighborhoods because of all of the high water. Like you see in this video, there was a press conference not too long ago. It was right at 11, actually, so about an hour ago, where Germantown officials and administrators talked about one neighborhood in particular and about how they went door to door, basically saying if they will perform boat evacuations if these residents wanted. Right. They said they did do a few, but most of them decided to stay put, and that is okay because this is not a mandatory evacuation. But officials also said, when you have 2-3 feet of water, it could still be in some way life-threatening. So it is still a situation to take very seriously. And they also went into detail. Exactly.
Well, right?
They talked a lot about how, even though the rain was more so Saturday night, Germantown is at the top of the Menominee River. So all of that floodwater is just now getting into the river. That's causing a lot of issues. So there's almost more now than there even was on Saturday.
Sure, and everything will, of course, continue downriver, so towns and villages that are a little farther along will be next to deal with that. So that is a live, ongoing situation. Our own Bowen Kadrovich was there this morning live, and any details we get from that, of course, we'll pass it along on Fox 6. A little bit of an update here as well from Waukesha, where we were also live this morning during Fox 6 Wake Up. The Fox River, Waukesha, record high levels are near them. This comes, of course, as Waukesha County is also under a state of emergency. The National Weather Service there says the Fox River crested late last night at about 8.58 feet. Now the record is just a little higher at 8.85 feet, set back in 2008, but definitely right up there. Before that, this section hadn't topped 8 feet since 1960.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was kind of unbelievable to see this because you never think about a street caving in. But when explained, you can understand what happened.
And Fox 6 also talked to nearby businesses that are giving out free food. You may have seen some of the free food in that previous video there to people yesterday. And then, of course, now folks are in need of shelter as well.
Yeah, they are. The Red Cross is helping anyone out who is in need after the flooding. They opened 2 shelters, one at Holler Park on South 6th Street, the other at the Washington Park Senior Center, if you're familiar with those areas.
Anybody, who needs a safe place to stay is welcome to come and sleep here. We're also, like I said, providing food, water, hygiene kits. Even if people want to just come and charge their cell phone, they're welcome to come.
So officials say the shelters will be open as long as they are needed. The Red Cross adds the biggest need right now is people asking for cleanup kits.
Yeah, that makes sense because the cleanup of this is very important. The impact of flooding can be months, even years down the road because that water can sit and it can create mold if it's not cleaned up properly. That mold then can become a health hazard, which impacts human health, as I said, months, maybe years down the road. So I'm happy in a weird way to see that people are taking it seriously, looking for those cleanup kits, getting this cleaned up properly. This isn't something you want to take half measures on.
Right.
It is very important to clean up floodwater. Floodwater, unfortunately, is not as pure and clean as you would like to think it is, right? We'd like to think it's, right from Mother Nature's clouds and into the ground, but obviously it goes through everything else on its way. It is quite often usually filled with things we don't want to talk about here,
Yes.
and that can cause a lot of problems. In some parts of the world, it leads to widespread disease.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the many reasons why we also say don't go into flood water. If it's not for, you never know how deep it is, or the speed that it's
Right,
moving, the
right.
power of it. It's dirty water.
It is very dirty water. It can be very problematic. Even if a little cut on your leg, a mosquito bite
Yes.
on your leg gets infected, you never know what could be in there. So many families are facing, of course, one of the most difficult tasks with this, which is dealing with the cleaning, of course, and parting with the prized possessions, all the damaged things. There'd be photo books, items that maybe have been passed down generation to generation. We spoke to a basement repair professional who says if it's still early enough, all might not be lost.
As long as you get to it early enough, there won't be mold on it this soon. Okay. So get it outside, get it in the sun, get it dried out, but get it out of the basement, because as much as it sits down there, the humidity levels will be high, and it'll mold. So get that stuff out, the favorite stuff.
And if you know someone who is dealing with basement flooding, here are some tips from the experts. First, turn off your electricity. That's really, really key. Make sure you wear equipment to keep yourself safe, like rubber boots, rubber gloves that go up to your arms, we were just pointing out. Remove any wet items and then put them in a clean, dry spot. And consider renting a water vac to kind of clear out as much water as you can, and throw away anything that is ruined, because again, if you keep it, it may lead to mold or something worse down the road.
Exactly. And if your basement is flooded, you have collapsed walls or any lightning-related damage, you can report it to Milwaukee County by calling 211. There's the information again on your screen. Wisconsin Emergency Management is working with counties to assess damage and determine what resources are needed to speed recovery efforts. And there are so many areas that were impacted by this. This is a very widespread area. So just know there is help out there if you need it.
There you go. Reach out for sure. And now we're going to continue with the flooding aftermath. Meanwhile, families racing to clean up what little is left from their homes, of course. Seeing images now from Milwaukee. So we switch from Waukesha to Milwaukee, showing the power of what this water can do. Talking about the damage and the collapsed walls. One neighbor tells us flooding forced them to escape their house at 2:30 in the morning on Sunday. When they got outside, they saw their street completely covered in water. They helped people escape from their submerged cars, and now they're left to kind of pick up the damage, and they're kind of uncertain as to what's next.
I don't even know what to do. I mean, we lost everything. We're just trying to save what we can, but we're just thankful to the good Lord that all of us made it alive,
Of course, some are staying with family, others, trying to find other situations. They're still among the many that are not certain exactly what comes next as well. And we were talking about the Germantown water rescue. There's also in Menominee Falls, that's an issue.
Yeah, exactly. Now to
listen to the sound.
Yeah. Oh, just remarkable
sound on that
video. You can just hear the screams and everybody calling for help. But this was sent in by a Fox 6 viewer. It shows first responders in the Menominee River late Monday afternoon, so yesterday, in Menominee Falls. Officials tell us 2 people had to be rescued after they jumped in to try and save their dog. Witnesses nearby on land say they saw the 2 people struggling and called 911.
We saw the boy float right under us, and then I'd say about 20 to 30 feet after that is when they finally were able to rescue him and get him out there. But I mean, yeah, he was floating from here about like a half mile just in the water, fighting for his life.
Oh gosh, that is
Scary
just
stuff.
so scary.
Everyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah, fire officials warn people that the current is strong on every river too. This is just the Menominee River, but they all, even the ones that are not under flood warnings, are strong. The water is extremely cold, and that's a combination they say will drain your energy very quickly. So avoid jumping in at all costs.
And as we said off the top of the show, we had another round of this morning. Happened to catch some of the heavy rain and the strong wind on a time lapse out at Mitchell International Airport. This came through one of our live cameras this morning at just before 6 a.m. Wind gusts were 45 to 60 plus miles per hour, obviously taking up power and damage. And some of the wind gust reports that we had at official wind stations, impressive stuff.
Yeah, check these out. These are from the National Weather Service. Service from across our area. Sullivan 60 miles per hour reported, Milwaukee 56, Butler a gust of 51, and down the list you can see these were strong winds as this line rolled through between, what was it, Rob, 6:30?
Yeah, really got going. Even like 5:30, it really started to hit its peak there, and then by 6:30, it started to move out over the lake.
And a lot of these spots were under the one severe thunderstorm warning that was prompted. We did receive, or the National Weather Service received a high wind gust report in Oconomowoc that prompted them to then warn that part of the storm as it continued to move through parts of northeastern Waukesha County, northern Milwaukee County, southern Ozaukee, southern Washington. You've heard those counties a lot. These were the problem areas Saturday night into Sunday morning. But with all of that strong wind, you can see plenty of reports of strong winds and even some wind damage around the area. We did receive reports of tree limbs down, power outages. There are still many without power. And then look at some of the rain. I had the opportunity to go through some of our Kokoros reports, and there were some spots over an inch of rainfall, including Oconomowoc. This storm, it was powerful to say the very least as it rolled through parts of the area. Even Milwaukee at the airport picked up about 0.6 of an inch of rain. Here at the station, just over 0.4 of an inch. So it was more so out west and towards the north of Milwaukee that saw some of the highest totals as these rolled through. Now, we're not quite done with our rain chance. However, I'm not expecting as much this afternoon compared to what we saw this morning. We still could see some heavy rain at times. You'll notice the heavy rainfall outlook from the Weather Prediction Center scaled back a little bit, but still at least in that level 1 marginal for some of our southern communities. So that just means some heavy rainfall is not out of the question going forward. Thankfully, a lot of spots are actually dry right now, and that's across the state. We've got a few showers far northern Wisconsin, just a few spotty ones down towards the south as well. But we could still see a little bit more develop. What we're really watching here is this cold front that's out towards the west. So we'll see what else we can get developing around the surface trough right now locally in eastern and southern Wisconsin. Certainly could still see at least a few isolated or scattered storms through your lunch hour. And then maybe one more final push of moisture as that cold front rolls through later on this evening. Once it passes, we're clearing out. There are high pressures out towards the west. There's sunshine. There's quiet weather. We have great conditions ahead for the rest of the week. Now, elsewhere, when it comes to rain, some tropical downpours down towards the south along the Gulf Coast. Also still very unsettled towards the southeast. The Carolinas dealing with a lot of rain right now, too. And you can see elsewhere in the vicinity. It's just going to be a day of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Out towards the west, it's all about the heat. And we'll get to that in just a second. But as for the rest of this afternoon, again, still not going to rule out a few more scattered thunderstorms. They could still have heavy pockets of rain too. So I want us to keep our guard up. I'm not expecting it to be like this morning, but still could have some heavy downpours at times. And once we get past that 9 o'clock hour, I think most of us are drying out as that front rolls through. We see plenty of sunshine then for Wednesday, as well as Thursday and Friday. As far as the next chance for rain goes, that looks to be over the weekend. Now, I know the last thing we want to talk about is wildfire smoke, but look up towards the north. There's a decent amount of areas, including northern and central Wisconsin, under air quality alerts. Now, there is a plume of some thick smoke in Canada right now that is sinking southward. So it's a possibility. I know I don't want to talk about this, but there is a possibility maybe late Wednesday or Thursday that we do see just a little bit of wildfire smoke back in the area. Otherwise, heat out towards the west. That's the big story for today in the western part of the U.S. High temperatures in the Pacific Northwest nearing records in the 90s. Here locally, we're going to hang out in the 70s and 80s, but cooler air after the cold front Wednesday, Thursday, just to heat right back up heading on into the weekend. That's your latest look at our regional weather. Let's take a live look outside right now where you see the cloud cover in Milwaukee, but we're dry at the moment. We will hang tight to this. We have more weather experts, Wisconsin weather experts, that is, coming up.
Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts here on Fox Local on the Fox 6 YouTube channel. You can also watch it at fox6now.com. We're pretty much everywhere you want us to be. Now, it has been an interesting 24-hour period. We've had a lot of heavy rain. We've just talked about the strong wind. We've also seen a lot of lightning. Check this out, a wild weather alert caught on camera. Look at that blast. Dash cam video catches a lightning strike hitting a transformer, caused a huge explosion, prompting lines on the other side of the road, of course, and then everything blew up when it came to the power lines. This happened yesterday in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is just outside of Charleston. No injuries reported, happy to say that. More rain in the regional forecast for them as well, and that would be right on through Thursday, but quite the shot there on the dash cam.
Oh, and I'm sure the thunder was very loud that came along with that as well. But one example of the types of lightning that we see, did you know that there are multiple different types? Some are positive, some are negative. There's a lot that goes into lightning that we don't often really break down during our newscasts. Meteorologist Tom Walks has all of the specifics and awesome information that you'd like to know. Check it out.
Let's talk about lightning, and I really want to get into the topic of lightning here because take a look. This was from our Estabrook Park tower camera showing nearly constant lightning. In this case, this was cloud to cloud lightning, and then you have cloud to ground lightning strikes as well. But this is in real time. This is not sped up or anything like that. In fact, I'll step over here so you can see all of these lightning flashes with this storm that was producing just a whole lot of lightning that was almost nonstop here, as you can see. And so not only, of course, are you getting the lightning, but the lightning then creates the thunder. So you're obviously getting a lot of thunder, a lot of rolling thunder, and consistent thunder in association with this as well. But again, this is a real-time video here showing you that the lightning pretty much non-stop. So let's get into how lightning forms and a little more about charges, electrical charges, and things like that. So I want to show you the radar from this particular night, and I've got the lightning bolts on here as well, and I'll explain what the colors are here in just a moment. But you can see, especially as it rewinds here, look at all that cloud to ground lightning taking shape here. Now, lightning forms when thunderstorms grow tall. The taller the thunderstorm, the colder it is, right? Just like if you were to go into a hot air balloon and go up, it gets colder. Well, what happens when it gets colder? Water turns to ice, right? And that is the critical factor in lightning formation. Because as those thunderstorms get tall, sometimes as high as 10 miles high in this case for those thunderstorm tops, it's very cold up there, and so you get the ice formation in the thunderstorms. The ice is what separates the charges in the cloud. So you have negative charges and you have positive charges. Now, what creates the cloud to ground lightning strikes are the negative charges at the base of the cloud, and then you have positive charges coming off of the surface and different things at the surface, objects from trees to power lines. That's why you always say you don't want to be the tallest object in the field, right? Or the tallest thing, because humans also emit that positive charge. And here's the problem. If the negative charge coming down from the cloud and the positive charge coming up link, boom, that's when you get the lightning strike. I can give you a quick personal story. Back when I lived in Kansas City, we had one of those rooftop pools where we were living, and walked outside. There was a thunderstorm coming in from the west, and my wife started laughing at me, and she goes, "Your hair is sticking up." And I said, "What?" And she was laughing. She goes, "Your hair is sticking up." And I looked at her and I said, "Run." And we ran inside. Well, what was happening there is the positive charges were being lifted off the top of my head and going up into the air. And that's what caused my hair to stand up. Static electricity, right? And so had that linked up with a negative charge coming down from the cloud, I would have been struck by lightning. So I was primed to get struck by lightning, even though the storm was still miles away. So that's why you got to be real careful out in thunderstorms, even when they're not on top of you, right? So now let me explain the warm, humid environment, first of all, and this is why in this case we had so much lightning. Because when dew points are high and moisture levels are high, that leads to a very unstable atmosphere and can lead to quite a bit of lightning. And this is why we tend to see this more, the more prolific lightning in the summertime than in the wintertime. You still can get cloud to ground lightning, of course, in the winter, but again, it's much more active in the summer because it's much more warm and humid. So that's the deal with that. Now, you'll notice the colors on here. The white, those are what we call negative lightning strikes. That's the majority of lightning strikes. And that's what I mean where you have the negative charge at the base of the cloud, the positive charge coming up from below. They link and you get the lightning bolt. Now, it can come from cloud to ground. I've seen it go from the ground to the cloud, from like a TV tower going straight up and fanning out. And it can also develop right in the middle, and it kind of goes both ways. So it's not just cloud to ground, it can be ground to cloud sometimes as well. Now, the blue that you're seeing, and I've shaded the positive lightning strokes with the color of blue. It seems like a lot here to me, so I don't know if that's 100% accurate. Typically, less than 5% of lightning strikes are considered positive strikes. What do I mean by that? Well, you can get additional lightning bolts coming from the anvil of the thunderstorm, or the top of the thunderstorm. If you've ever heard the term bolt from the blue before, where lightning is striking out of a blue, clear sky, that is because when the thunderstorm is far away, you can still get a lightning strike up to 10, 20, 25 miles away from the parent thunderstorm. And the concern with the positive lightning strikes is they are much more powerful than those negative strikes. So that it can really deliver a blow, both from a forest fire standpoint, as we've talked in Canada. That can be a big contributing factor with these really powerful bolts, in addition to electrical issues and so on and so forth. So the positive bolts, I mean, any lightning is dangerous. The positive bolts, though, are even stronger than the negative bolts. But again, that has to do with the charges again in the atmosphere. And one thing I want to leave you with is heat lightning. And we hear from a lot of folks saying, I just saw heat lightning. And that has been a big term over the years. And I hate to burst your bubble, there is no such thing as heat lightning. I think the reason why the term came to be is because it typically happens on a warm, humid night, right, where you're seeing the lightning, but you're not hearing the thunder. And the reason why is because the lightning is over the horizon. So in this case, the lightning may be way out over Lake Michigan, or maybe even in western Michigan, and you're still seeing it, but it's too far away to hear the thunder. So again, technically no such thing as heat lightning. It's just lightning that is over the horizon and too far from us to be able to hear the thunder.
There you go. That always blows people's minds.
I know.
When we tell them that. But we just helped somebody win bar trivia. So that's
There you
good news.
go.
We'll be back with more Wisconsin weather experts in a couple of minutes.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts. We covered a lot today.
Yeah, jam-packed show. We only have time to say, hey, if you have questions, please let us know. Hit up the QR code. Send all your questions to us. We'll do our best to answer those. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Wisconsin Weather Experts. We'll see you tomorrow.